Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. Nova Terminus, an interstellar port city, shimmered under the faint purple glow of plasma streetlights scattered along its metal-paved roads. These streets, like captured galaxies beneath the feet, reflected a hazy light into the endless night. Jake Callahan, a former aerospace engineer, trudged through the workers' district, his broad shoulders slumped with exhaustion. A grueling 14-hour shift at the Starship repair yard had drained him dry. His grease-stained coveralls clung to his frame, and his heavy boots clomped rhythmically against the pavement. All he wanted was to collapse in his cramped apartment, scrub off the day's grime, and steal a few hours of sleep before the grind pulled him back. The Starship factory loomed at the end of the street, a colossal structure of steel and glass. Giant robotic arms moved tirelessly, their welding torches hissing sharply as they fused hull plates. Nova Terminus was the heart of interstellar trade, where freighters, warships, and exploration vessels were born to conquer the void. To Jake, though, it was just a relentless machine, chewing up his time and his old dreams. Once, he'd imagined piloting an Earth Alliance warship, soaring among the stars. Now, he was just a mechanic, fixing the machines others would fly. A strange noise from the scrapyard beside the factory halted his steps. The clatter of metal mingled with a faint, almost imperceptible sound, like a soft moan. Probably just a stray creature from the nearby bioforest, or a broken machine sputtering its last. Jake shook his head, ready to move on. His next shift started in less than 7 hours, and sleep was a luxury he couldn't squander. But an odd feeling, like a whisper in his gut, tugged him toward the sound. He veered into the shadowed alley, where piles of Starship wreckage rose like metallic graves. In the darkness, something irregular jutted from the scrap heap. It wasn't a ship fragment but something, alive. Jake squinted, the beam from the flashlight on his work jacket cutting through the gloom. "What the hell?" he muttered, stepping closer. A small figure curled inside a shattered escape pod, the kind used to jettison crew in emergencies. But this wasn't human. Its skin was a shimmering silver gray, like woven moonlight, and long turquoise hair glowed faintly, the only light in the oppressive dark. Jake approached, his pulse quickening. The figure stirred, and a weak moan escaped. He realized it was female, or at least, resembled one. Her face was delicate, with soft yet sharp features, as if carved from crystal. When her eyes opened, they were twin pools of deep violet, sparkling like distant stars. They left me," she whispered. "I wasn't worth saving." Jake glanced toward the factory, where robotic arms continued their relentless dance. Nova Terminus was under the iron grip of the Xytherian coalition, an alien civilization famed for advanced tech but notorious for their ruthless, social value hierarchy. He'd heard stories of them abandoning those deemed inefficient patients, prisoners, even injured crew. Jake shrugged off his work jacket, draping it over her trembling form. "Who did this to you?" he asked. "The overseers," she replied, her violet eyes glinting with unshed tears. "They said I was infected, something incurable. Not worth the resources." Jake clenched his jaw, anger flaring in his chest. He wasn't a doctor or a hero. He was just a grease monkey, scraping by fixing discarded machines. But to leave a living being, human or not, tossed aside like scrap, that went against everything he stood for. "What's your name?" Jake asked, kneeling to meet her gaze. She lifted her head slightly, her turquoise hair pulsing faintly. "Lyrian," she said. "I'm Lyrian, of the Xytherian people." Jake nodded, masking his unease. Xytherians, a rare species, known for wielding elemental energy, nearly wiped out after the interstellar wars. He stood, scanning the alley. He couldn't leave her here, freezing among the wreckage. But where could he take her? Xytherian hospitals would turn her away, and he didn't have the credits for private care. A name flashed in his mind. "Milo," he muttered. Lyrian looked up, her violet eyes widening. "Who's Milo?" Jake managed a tense smile. "A friend. Not a doctor, but a freelance biologist. He studies alien species. Unorthodox, but he's got a knack for saving what others give up on. It was a crazy idea. Milo was a nutcase, holed up in a makeshift lab beneath Nova Terminus's black market, but his weird genius had pulled off miracles before. Can you walk? Jake asked, offering his hand. Lyrian nodded weakly, trying to stand, but her slender legs buckled. Without hesitation, Jake scooped her up. She was startlingly light, as if made of light rather than flesh. Hold on to me, Lyrian, he said. I'm getting you to Milo. As he stepped out of the alley, the plasma streetlights cast a purple glow on Lyrian's shimmering hair, painting ethereal streaks across her face. A fierce resolve ignited in Jake, a certainty that this girl wouldn't die tonight, not on his watch. The black market of Nova Terminus was a labyrinth of ramshackle stalls, where traders from dozens of worlds hawked everything from banned tech to caged alien critters. Jake navigated the narrow alleys, dodging the curious stares of merchants and drunken wanderers. Lyrian leaned against his shoulder, her breaths shallow and uneven, each one a quiet battle. Why are you helping me? She asked, her voice barely audible. Jake paused, thinking. Because it's right, he said. And because I can't stand seeing anyone treated like garbage. Lyrian fell silent, but her violet eyes seemed to brighten, as if his words had touched something deep within her. Humans are strange, she murmured. Other species say you're dangerous, untrustworthy. But you're different. Jake chuckled softly. Not really. I'm just a guy who fixes things. And I don't like seeing anything broken without trying to mend it. He glanced at Lyrian, struck by her otherworldly beauty, not just her glowing eyes or luminous hair, but the quiet strength shining through her frailty. A protective instinct surged within him, a spark flaring in the dark. Milo's lab was hidden behind a stall selling synthetic food, its entrance disguised by a rusted metal panel. Jake knocked 3 times, following Milo's coded signal. Who's there? A voice called. Jake Callahan? Open up, Milo. It's urgent. The door creaked open, revealing a wiry man with disheveled hair and oversized goggles that made him look like a bug. Milo, the self-proclaimed biologist, had the air of a madman, but his eyes were sharp as lasers. Jake, what are you doing here at this hour? Milo asked, then froze as he saw Lyrian in Jake's arms. Holy stars, a Xytherian? Where'd you find a Xytherian? He shoved his goggles onto his forehead, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Get her inside now. Main lab, go! Jake wove through the cluttered room, past jars of bizarre specimens and screens flashing biodata. He set Lyrian on a steel table, where a plasma lamp bathed her silver skin in a gem-like glow. Milo scanned Lyrian with a handheld device, muttering terms Jake couldn't follow. Elemental infection, Milo declared. A rare Xythian energy disorder. The Xytherians ditched her, didn't they? Jake nodded, his fists tightening. They said she wasn't worth saving. Milo snorted. Typical Xytherian nonsense. They're obsessed with efficiency. But this... He studied Lyrian, his eyes alight. This we can fix. It's gonna take something rare, though. What? Jake asked. Milo spun to a data screen, typing furiously. Auralite crystals from Zoran. They stabilize Xythian elemental energy. Problem is, Zoran's outside Earth Alliance control, and Auralite's banned for its military value. Jake frowned. So, the black market? Milo grinned mischievously. Bingo. I know a guy, Varkis, in the Shadow Vale district. Fair warning, Jake, it's not a place for the faint-hearted. Jake looked at Lyrian, her violet eyes meeting his with a trust that gripped his heart. I'll get that crystal, he said. Milo raised an eyebrow. You sure? Varkis isn't exactly friendly. And Shadow Vale's crawling with pirates and mercenaries. Jake nodded, his gaze fixed on Lyrian. I'm not letting her die. Not today. Milo sighed, but respect flickered in his eyes. All right, hero. I'll keep her stable with a temporary serum, but you've got 48 hours before her energy disorder spirals out of control. He handed Jake a small comm device. Use this to contact Varkis. And Jake, watch your back. Shadow Vale's dangerous, and the Xytherians might be tracking her. Jake helped Lyrian sit up, feeling a strange warmth from her skin, like a faint electric pulse. You can stay here with Milo, he said. I'll be back as fast as I can. But Lyrian shook her head, her violet eyes blazing with resolve. No. I'm coming with you. Jake started to argue, but her gaze stopped him. There was power in her fragility, a hidden fire he couldn't ignore. Fine, he said. But save your strength. And if things go south, let me handle it. Lyrian smiled faintly, a warmth in her expression. You're a strange human, Jake Callahan. Jake grinned back, sensing a bond forming between them, a spark kindled in the shadows of Nova Terminus. Jake guided Lyrian through the black market's dark alleys, the air thick with the scent of scorched metal and synthetic food. Rickety stalls overflowed with contraband, from illegal power cores to caged alien creatures. Jake kept Lyrian close, his arm shielding her from prying eyes. She leaned into him, her steps slow but determined, each one a testament to her refusal to give up. They stopped outside a dingy bar, its flickering red sign reading, Shadow Vale, in 3 planetary scripts. Jake took a deep breath, checking the comm device Milo gave him. Varkis, he muttered, sending the signal. A gravelly voice crackled through. Who's this? Better have a damn good reason. Jake replied. Jake Callahan. Milo sent me. I need to see Varkis about aurolite crystals. A long pause, then the voice growled. Come in. Last booth, left corner. Don't try anything stupid. Jake took Lyrian's hand, leading her through the bar's door. Inside was a chaotic mix of noise and light, mercenaries' laughter, clinking glasses, and flickering screens showing robot fights. Jake felt dozens of eyes, Xytherian lizard folk, scarred human mercenaries, tracking them as they moved. They slid into a booth in the corner, where a tall, reptilian figure waited. Varkis, Jake assumed, with greenish-gray scales and glowing yellow eyes like searchlights. Callahan. Varkis hissed, baring sharp teeth. Milo says you want aurolite. That stuff ain't cheap or easy to get. Jake nodded, keeping his cool. Name your price. I'll pay. Varkis let out a dry laugh. Not just credits, human. Aurolite's restricted. If I get it for you, I need a favor. There's a shipment that needs to leave Nova Terminus undetected. Can you handle it? Jake's gut tightened. What kind of shipment? Details don't matter, Varkis said. It's sensitive, and the Xytherians can't know. Agree, and the aurolite's yours. Jake glanced at Lyrian, her violet eyes watching him with trust and worry. He knew this deal was risky, but Lyrian's time was running out. Deal, he said. But I need the crystal first. Varkis nodded, producing a small, radiant crystal that pulsed like a compressed star. A show of good faith, he said, sliding it across the table. But don't forget, Callahan, I'll come collecting. Jake took the crystal, feeling its strange energy thrum in his hand, like a living heartbeat. He turned to Lyrian, giving her a reassuring look. We'll get this to Milo. You're gonna be okay. As they rose to leave, a piercing alarm blared outside the bar. Blinding white light from Xytherian patrol drones flooded through the windows, sweeping the crowd. Security check. A robotic voice boomed. Remain in place. Jake gripped Lyrian's hand, his heart pounding. They're after you, he whispered. We gotta move. They bolted through the bar's back door, weaving past crates and tangled cables. The metallic clank of drones echoed behind them, joined by shouts from Xytherian enforcers. Jake pulled Lyrian into a narrow alley, its shadows offering temporary cover. They know you're here, he said, checking the comm. Milo, you there? Xytherians are on us. We need an out. Milo's voice crackled through, urgent. Head to the East Docks, Base 17. My friend Nora runs a freighter. She can get you out. Jake nodded, though Milo couldn't see. Thanks, Milo. Stay on the line. He looked at Lyrian, her trembling form lit by her faintly glowing hair. "You holding up?" he asked. "I'm okay," she said, her voice faint but resolute. "But my energy, it's fading." Jake clutched the aurolite crystal in his pocket, its weight a reminder of their goal. "Hang in there. We're almost there." They darted through the alleys, dodging drones and their searing white beams. The east docks came into view, a sprawl of battered ships and cargo containers. Jake spotted Bay 17, where a scratched-up freighter waited. A woman with short hair and a pilot's jacket stood at the ramp. "You Jake?" she called, her eyes sharp. "Milo said you need a quick exit." "Yeah," Jake said, helping Lyrian aboard. "Xytherians are right behind us." Nora nodded, no questions asked. "Get on. We're lifting off in 5. As Jake and Lyrian boarded, he felt the faint warmth of her body, fragile but alive. He glanced back, seeing the drone's lights closing in. "Will she make it?" he asked Nora as the ship's engines roared to life. Nora shot a glance at Lyrian, then back at Jake. "If you believe in her, she will. Now buckle up. This ain't gonna be a smooth ride." The ship shuddered, pulling away from the docks, and Nova Terminus shrank in the viewport. Jake held Lyrian's hand, feeling a strange bond between them, a spark that refused to die, burning bright against the dark. The Starling shuddered as its plasma thrusters roared, slicing through the endless night of space. Stars streaked past the viewport like ghostly trails, but Jake Callahan's focus was locked on Lyrian, the Xytherian woman leaning against his shoulder in the cramped passenger bay. Her turquoise hair glowed faintly, a tiny lantern in the dark. Her slender, trembling hands gripped his, and her violet eyes shimmered with a resolve that set his heart racing. The aurolite crystal rested safely in Jake's work jacket, pulsing with a warm energy, like a living heartbeat. But he knew their journey was far from over. The Xytherians were still hunting them, and the deal with Varkes, the Shadow Veil smuggler, transporting a mystery shipment, felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire. Nora, the Starling's pilot, appeared at the bay's entrance, her short hair mussed from crawling out of the cockpit. She wiped sweat from her brow with the back of her hand, her sharp eyes flicking over Jake and Lyrian. "We're clear of Nova Terminus's control zone," she said. "But don't get cozy. Xytherian patrol ships are twice as fast as this bucket. If they want her, they won't quit." Her gaze softened slightly as it landed on Lyrian, as if sensing the alien woman's fragility. "You holding up okay?" Lyrian nodded, though her body trembled. "I'm all right. But my energy, it's still unstable." Jake squeezed her hand, feeling a strange warmth from her silver skin, like a faint electric current through his fingers. "We've got the aurolite crystal," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Milo know how to use it. Just hang on a little longer." Lyrian managed a weak smile, her violet eyes glowing as if trying to convey something words couldn't capture. "Thank you, Jake. I didn't think I'd survive tonight without you." Jake shook his head, hiding the warmth spreading in his chest. "Don't thank me yet. We're not out of the woods." He turned to Nora, his expression serious. "Where's Milo? We need to get this crystal to him." Nora plopped into the seat across from them, checking a wrist-mounted screen. "Milo's holed up at Orion 7, a derelict space station about 3 hours out. It's a rust bucket from the old interstellar wars, abandoned ages ago. Nobody cares about it, so it's a safe hideout. But," she hesitated, a flicker of worry in her eyes, "Varkes pinged me. He wants that shipment delivered before we hit Orion 7. Jake's brow furrowed, unease coiling in his gut. "What's in that shipment?" He didn't say squat back at Shadow Veil. Nora stood, motioning for him to follow. "Come see for yourself before you decide." Jake glanced at Lyrian, who gave a small nod, signaling she'd be okay. He followed Nora down the Starling's narrow corridor to a locked cargo bay. Nora punched in a code, and the door slid open, revealing a large metal crate emitting a faint green glow through its seams. "What's this?" Jake asked, his voice low. Nora popped the crate's lid, exposing dozens of small metallic orbs, their energy circuits pulsing faintly. "Military tech," she said. Antimatter power cores, to be exact. Varkes is smuggling them to some rebel group on the system's edge. If the Xytherians catch us with this, we're not just hunted, we're vaporized. Jake stared at the orbs, his pulse spiking. Antimatter was the deadliest stuff in the cosmos. One slip-up could turn the starling into cosmic dust. And if we don't deliver? He asked. Nora shrugged, her eyes hard but tinged with worry. Varkes doesn't forgive. He's got eyes across the system, and he'll track us down. But if you want to save her, we play his game, for now. Jake nodded, though his mind churned with conflict. He wanted no part of rebels or antimatter, but Lyrian needed the Auralite, and this was the price. He thought of her violet eyes, her quiet strength, and knew he couldn't back out. They returned to the passenger bay, where Lyrian sat, arms wrapped around herself as if to hold in warmth. Jake took the seat beside her, pulling the Auralite crystal from his pocket. It shimmered in his palm, like a star trapped in glass. Feel anything from it? He asked. Lyrian touched the crystal, and a faint glow spread from her fingers, mingling with its light. It calls to me, she said. Like it knows I need it. But Milo has to activate its energy. Otherwise, it's just a pretty rock. Jake nodded, tucking the crystal away. We'll get to Orion 7. I promise. But a shrill alarm from the cockpit shattered the moment. Nora bolted forward, Jake and Lyrian scrambling after her. The main screen showed a Xytherian patrol ship, its sleek, jagged design and blinding white lights like a predator closing in. They found us, Nora said, her hands flying over the controls. This ship's fast, but not fast enough to outrun them. What can we do? Jake asked, adrenaline surging. Nora shot him a sharp look. 2 options, fight or surrender. With that antimatter in the hold, surrender's a death sentence. Jake glanced at Lyrian, her trembling form steady in her gaze, trusting him to find a way. Fight, he said. But how? Does this ship have weapons? Nora gave a grim smile. A couple of old plasma cannons and a shield generator on its last legs. But I've got a plan. You fix machines, right? Jake nodded, catching her drift. Get me to the engine room. I'll juice up the shields. Nora pointed to a narrow corridor. Go. And hurry. We've got minutes before they open fire. Jake sprinted to the engine room, a chaotic maze of conduits and glowing circuits. He worked at breakneck speed, hands darting over cables and panels. He'd repaired countless systems like this at Nova Terminus, but never with a firefight looming. Lyrian, weak but stubborn, stood at the doorway, watching him. Can you do it? She asked, gripping the frame. Jake flashed a grin, sweat beading on his brow. I was born to fix broken junk. Trust me. He rerouted power to the shields, pushing them to their limit. A deafening boom rocked the ship as a plasma bolt struck, but the shields held. Got it! Jake yelled into the calm. Nora, shields'll hold for 10 minutes tops. Nice work! Nora shot back. Now hold on. I'm diving into a cosmic dust cloud. They'll lose us in there. The starling plunged into a thick haze, starlight dimming, and the Xytherian ship vanished from the screen. Jake exhaled, but Nora's voice cut through the relief. Don't celebrate yet. They'll be back. We need to hit Orion 7 before they regroup. Jake returned to the passenger bay, sinking beside Lyrian. She took his hand, her fingers shaky but warm. You did it, she said. You saved us. Jake shook his head, tamping down a swell of pride. Not yet. But I'm not stopping till you're safe. Lyrian's violet eyes held his, shimmering with something deeper. You humans, you're incredible, she said. I've never met anyone who'd risk so much. Jake's face warmed. Just doing what's right, he said, but inside, he felt a bond with Lyrian, like she wasn't just someone he'd saved but a piece of himself he hadn't known was missing. He thought of his old dreams, piloting a warship through the stars, and realized that this moment, with Lyrian beside him, made him feel alive in a way those dreams never had. Orion 7 loomed in the viewport, a rusted relic of a space station, its debris drifting like ghosts of a forgotten war. Milo waited in an abandoned repair bay, his equipment's glow visible through the windows. As the Starling docked, Milo rushed out, his disheveled hair and crooked goggles unchanged. "You pulled it off!" he whooped, spotting Jake and Lyrian. "And the ore light?" Jake handed over the crystal, relief tangled with worry. "Here. Can you save her now?" Milo clutched the crystal, eyes gleaming like a kid with a new toy. "Oh, this is perfect. Get her inside, and I'll start right away." In the repair bay, Milo set Lyrian on a makeshift exam table, surrounded by cobbled-together gear. He ground the orolite into powder, mixed it with a glowing solution, and carefully injected it into Lyrian's arm. She shuddered as the liquid hit her system, her silver skin flaring brighter, like a fire igniting within. "It's working," Milo said, scanning a data screen. "But this is just a start. She needs 2 more doses, and that means more orolite." Jake's heart sank. "More? I thought this was enough." Milo shook his head, his expression grave. "It's only stabilizing her. For a full cure, we need a bigger supply, and there's only one place to get it, the mines on Zoran." Jake's stomach twisted. Zoran was beyond Earth Alliance control, a hellhole of mercenary gangs and brutal conditions. "How do we get there?" he asked. Milo shrugged, a sly grin creeping back. "That's your job, hero. I'm just the science guy. But Nora can get you to a neutral port where you might find a pilot crazy enough to run the Zoran route. Watch out, though, the Xytherians want her, and they don't give up." Jake looked at Lyrian. Her skin's glow steadier, but her body's still frail. "How you feeling?" he asked. "Better," she said, her voice soft but clearer. "But I sense them, the Xytherians. They want me for my energy. They see me as an experiment." Jake gripped her hand, anger flaring. "They're not touching you. I swear it." Nora cut in from the doorway. "If you're aiming for Zoran, we need to move now. I picked up another patrol signal, not far off." Jake nodded, resolve hardening. "All right. Get us to that neutral port. I'll figure out the rest." But before they could leave, a blast shook Orion 7. Milo's screens flashed red, warning of an approaching Xytherian ship. "They found us!" Milo yelled, scrambling to a console. "Nora, fire up the ship! Jake, help me get the station's defenses online!" Jake followed Milo, leaving Lyrian with Nora. In the station's control room, Milo pointed to a dusty, tangled panel of circuits and cables. "Can you fix this? It runs the autolaser turrets. If we get them up, we can buy time." Jake nodded, diving into the wiring. He'd tackled systems like this before, but never with an attack bearing down. Another explosion rattled the station, and through the viewport, Jake saw the Xytherian ship firing white-hot plasma bolts, slicing through space like knives. "Hurry, Jake!" Milo shouted, hammering at the console. Jake worked frantically, splicing broken circuits and rerouting power. Sweat stung his eyes, but he didn't stop. Finally, the panel lit up, and the turrets whirred to life, unleashing red laser bursts at the Xytherian ship. "Got it!" Jake yelled, adrenaline pumping. Nora's voice crackled through the calm. "Jake, get Lyrian to the ship! We're leaving now!" Jake raced back to the repair bay, finding Lyrian standing, shaky but determined. He supported her as they hurried through trembling corridors. Aboard the Starling, Nora was ready in the cockpit. "Strap in!" she barked. The ship tore away from Orion 7, leaving a storm of lasers and explosions behind. As they plunged into deep space, Jake sat beside Lyrian, her warmth grounding him. "You did great," he said softly. Lyrian met his gaze, her violet eyes glowing with a quiet promise. "No, Jake. You're the one who's great. I feel you, your resolve, your courage. It's stronger than any energy I've known." Jake smiled, a deep connection taking root. "We're getting to Zoran," he said. "And I won't let anyone hurt you." But Jake knew the road ahead was treacherous. The Xytherians were relentless, and the antimatter in the hold was a ticking bomb. Varkis would come calling, and Zoran promised its own dangers. Yet, looking into Lyrian's eyes, Jake felt a fire blazing within, not just to save her, but because she'd become part of his destiny, something bigger than his faded dreams of the stars. Nora called from the cockpit. "We're headed for Delta 9, a neutral port. I know a pilot, Kale, who's run the Zoran route. But brace yourself, Delta 9's a madhouse, and Kale doesn't work for free." Jake nodded, his eyes on Lyrian. "Just get us there. I'll handle the rest." Lyrian squeezed his hand, her skin's glow pulsing like a heartbeat. "You don't have to do this alone," she said. "I'll fight with you." Jake met her gaze, feeling their energies intertwine, forging something stronger than either could be alone. "Together," he said firmly. "We'll make it." The neutral port of Delta 9 was a sprawling metal labyrinth adrift in the void, a chaotic patchwork of cobbled-together space stations, battered starships, and bustling markets where anything, from black market tech to exotic creatures, could be bought or sold. The Starling docked in a scarred bay, its engines groaning as they powered down. Jake Callahan stepped onto the ramp, gently supporting Lyrian, the Xytherian woman whose silver skin shimmered faintly and whose turquoise hair glowed with a soft, fragile light. Though still weak from Milo's first oralite dose, her glow had steadied, and her pale violet eyes sparkled with a resolve that quickened Jake's pulse. The oralite crystal in his work jacket pulsed warmly, but he knew it wasn't enough. To fully cure Lyrian, they had to reach Zoran, a treacherous planet beyond Earth Alliance control, where oralite mines were guarded by ruthless mercenary gangs. Nora, the Starling's pilot, strode ahead, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd of traders, mercenaries, and drifters clogging the docks. "Kale's at the main market," she said, checking her wrist calm. "He's the only pilot I know who's run the Zoran route and lived to brag about it. But he doesn't work for favors. You'll need something to trade." Jake nodded, his gut heavy. The antimatter shipment Varkis demanded was still stashed in the Starling's hold, a ticking time bomb. He wanted no part in rebel schemes, but if it was the only way to save Lyrian, he'd pay the price. Lyrian took his hand, her slender fingers warm despite her trembling. "You don't have to do this alone," she said, her gaze steady despite her frailty. "I'll fight with you." Jake smiled, feeling a deeper bond between them, like a small but stubborn flame burning through the dark. "Together," he said, squeezing her hand. "We'll get through this." Delta 9's main market was a riot of neon lights, chattering stalls, and the mingled stench of scorched metal and synthetic food. Jake guided Lyrian through the crowd, dodging curious stares. She wore one of Nora's old cloaks to hide her shimmering skin, but her turquoise hair still drew eyes. Nora led them to a shadowed corner where a tall, gray-haired man with a scarred face sat by a stall piled with starship parts. Kale, Jake figured, his cold eyes and holstered plasma pistol marking him as trouble. "Nora," Kale said, standing, his gaze sweeping the group. "Heard you need a ride to Zoran. That right?" Nora nodded, gesturing to Jake and Lyrian. "This is Jake Callahan and his friend. They need to hit the oralite mines. Can you do it?" Kale sized up Jake, then lingered on Lyrian, as if weighing her worth. "Zoran ain't a tourist spot. Merc gangs control the oralite mines, and they don't take kindly to outsiders. What's your offer?" Jake hesitated, then pulled a small device from his pocket, an antimatter power core, part of Varkis' shipment. "This," he said, keeping his voice level. "Enough to get us to Zoran and back." Kale's eyebrows shot up, greed flashing in his eyes. "Antimatter? You're playing hardball, Callahan. All right, I'll take you. But if we get jumped, don't expect me to die for you." Jake nodded, unease gnawing at him. He didn't trust Kale, but Lyrian's time was running out, and he had no other choice. They left the market, heading for Kale's ship, a battered old warship, the Vanguard, scarred but bristling with heavy plasma cannons. As they boarded, Jake noticed Lyrian's gaze grow distant, as if sensing something beyond his grasp. "You okay?" he asked, sitting beside her in the passenger bay. She nodded, but clutched his hand tightly. "I feel Zoran," she said. It's calling me. Like my energy belongs there. Jake frowned, a nameless worry rising. Is it dangerous? Lyrian shook her head. I don't know. But I trust you, Jake. You've brought me this far. For the next few hours, the Vanguard tore through space toward Zoran. Jake tried to keep Lyrian at ease, sharing stories of his days fixing ships at Nova Terminus, dreaming of piloting them. Lyrian listened, her violet eyes brightening as she asked about Earth, its green forests, vast oceans, and cool breezes, known to her only through Xytherian legends. Someday I want to see them, she said, her voice full of longing. Jake smiled, his heart lighter. I'll take you there, he promised. When this is over, I'll show you Earth. But that dream shattered when a blaring alarm erupted from the cockpit. Kale's voice crackled over the calm. Xytherian ships! 2 of them, on our tail! Jake rushed to the cockpit, where the screen showed 2 sleek patrol ships, their white lights glaring like predators. They know she's here, Kale said, hands dancing over the controls. Lyrian, right? A Xytherian. They'll pay big for her. Jake gripped the seat, fury boiling in his chest. You sold us out? Kale shrugged, eyes on the screen. I'm a pilot, not a saint. But I haven't sold her yet. If you want to keep her, help me take these guys out. Jake clenched his jaw, no time to argue. Keep the ship steady. I'll handle the shields. He raced to the Vanguard's engine room, a tangled mess of cables and ancient machinery. Lyrian followed, weak but determined. I can help, she said. My energy, it can boost the shields. Jake paused, worry etching his face. You sure? It could drain you. Lyrian nodded, her gaze unwavering. I want to fight with you. Jake nodded back, respect swelling in him. He showed her how to link an auxiliary circuit, while she placed her hands on the ship's power core. A faint purple glow spread from her fingers, merging with the system, making the shields flare brighter. Hell yeah! Jake shouted, checking the panel. You nailed it! But a bone-rattling explosion rocked the ship, and through the V-port, Jake saw a Xytherian ship unleash a barrage of blinding plasma. The shields held, but they were fading. Kale yelled over the comm. We gotta hit Zoran now! I'm pushing the engines to the red line! The Vanguard plunged through a cosmic dust cloud, Xytherians still in pursuit. Jake worked tirelessly, tweaking the shields to take a few more hits, while Lyrian, exhausted, kept channeling her energy. Sweat streaked her face, but her violet eyes burned with resolve. Finally, Zoran loomed ahead, a crimson planet scarred by swirling dust storms, like a gaping wound in space. Kale landed in a rocky valley near an abandoned mine, where Orolite's green glow glimmered from the cliffs. The mine's there, Kale said, pointing to a deep cave. But watch out. Merc gangs run this place, and they don't like visitors. Jake supported Lyrian, her body trembling from exhaustion. You can stay on the ship, he said gently. But Lyrian shook her head, her turquoise hair flickering. I'm with you. I feel the Orolite. It's close. They left the ship, carrying a small mining tool from Kale. The valley was choked with red dust, the air heavy with howling winds like a beast's roar. Jake led the way, Lyrian close behind, her glowing skin a beacon in the dark. As they neared the cave, mercenaries emerged from the rocks, weapons glinting faintly. Outsiders! One barked, raising a plasma rifle. Hand over the Orolite, or you're dead! Jake pushed Lyrian behind him, hands raised for peace. We don't want to fight. We just need some Orolite to save a life. The leader, a towering creature with black scales and blazing yellow eyes, let out a harsh laugh. Save a life? This is Zoran, human. Nobody comes here for charity. But before he could fire, Lyrian stepped forward, shedding her cloak, her silver skin flaring like a purple blaze. I'm Xytherian, she said, her voice steady despite her weakness. Orolite is part of me. Let us take it, and we'll leave. The leader hesitated, his yellow eyes flickering with curiosity and awe. Xytherian? Haven't seen your kind in years. Fine, take the Orolite. But there's a price. Jake's gut tightened. What price? The leader pointed to a massive rig in the cave, a rusted mining machine with grinding gears. That thing's busted. Fix it, and you'd get your crystals. Jake nodded, sensing a trap but out of options. Deal. I'll fix it. He entered the cave, mercenaries' eyes tracking him. Lyrian stayed close, channeling her faint energy to speed his work. The rig was a relic, but Jake pinpointed the issue: a fried power core and corroded circuits. He swapped in a spare core from the Vanguard, using Kale's tools to rewire the system. Sweat dripped from his brow, but Lyrian's gaze fueled him. At last, the rig roared to life, shaking the cave. The mercenaries nodded, satisfied. Take your aurolite. But don't come back. Jake and Lyrian gathered a haul of aurolite, its crystals twinkling like tiny stars, enough for Milo to finish the cure. Lyrian touched one, her purple glow blending with its light, as if communing with a piece of herself. They're singing, she whispered, awestruck. Jake grinned, relief mingling with pride. We did it, he said, helping her up. But as they left the cave, a blast shook the ground. A Xytherian ship landed nearby, its white beams sweeping the valley. Run! Jake yelled, pulling Lyrian toward the Vanguard. Kale had the engines primed, and they scrambled aboard as the ship launched, dodging plasma fire. In the cockpit, Kale growled. They're too close. We're toast if we don't act. Jake raced to the engine room, Lyrian trailing despite her exhaustion. We need stronger shields, he said, hands flying over circuits. Lyrian pressed her hands to the power core, summoning a final purple surge, boosting the shields. I can't do much more, she gasped, collapsing into Jake's arms. He held her, feeling her faint heartbeat. You've done enough, he said. I've got this. Jake worked feverishly, reinforcing the shields for a few more hits. Kale, proving his skill, weaved the Vanguard through a dust cloud, shaking the Xytherians temporarily. We need the Earth Alliance station, Kale shouted. Their anti-ship guns can cover us. Jake nodded, keying his calm. Milo, you copy? We've got the aurolite, but Xytherians are on us. Be ready! Milo's voice crackled back, urgent. I'm at the Earth Alliance station, Medbay 4. Get that aurolite here, and I'll fix her. The Vanguard tore toward a gleaming blue station, Earth Alliance's stronghold. As they neared, the station's guns roared, repelling the Xytherian ships. The Vanguard docked safely, and Jake carried Lyrian through the station's corridors to the med bay. Milo was waiting, his lab a mess of glowing equipment. Gimme the aurolite, he said, eyes alight. Jake handed over the crystal hull, and Milo set to work, grinding aurolite into powder, mixing it with a solution, and injecting it into Lyrian. She shuddered, her silver skin blazing like a star, purple light flooding the room. It's working! Milo cheered, checking readouts. One more dose, and she's good as new! Jake held Lyrian's hand, feeling her warmth grow stronger. You made it, he whispered. Lyrian opened her eyes, their violet glow brighter than ever. No, Jake, she said, her voice clear. We made it. Milo administered the final dose, and Lyrian's glow steadied, a timeless flame. She sat up, no longer trembling, and hugged Jake, tears sparkling on her cheeks. Thank you, she said. You gave me a new life. Jake hugged her back, his heart melting. And you gave me a reason to live, he replied, voice thick. Milo, grinning nearby, chuckled. All right, lovebirds, save the mushy stuff. We still gotta deal with Varkis and that antimatter. Jake nodded, but Lyrian's gaze told him they'd face any challenge together. They left the med bay, heading to the station's command center. Jake radioed Nora, who'd returned to the Starling for the next leg. We've got the aurolite, and Lyrian's healed, he said. But Varkis'll want his antimatter, Nora replied. I've got a plan. Hand the shipment to Earth Alliance. They'll handle Varkis and the rebels. You and Lyrian have done enough. Jake agreed, relief washing over him. He and Lyrian stood by a massive viewport, stars twinkling beyond. Where to next? he asked, smiling. Lyrian leaned into him, her glow blending with the cosmos. Earth, she said. I want to see forests, oceans, and stay with you. Jake held her close, a bright future unfolding. Then let's go home, he said, and they stood together, two small flames burning fierce in the vast universe. Dear listener, as you turn the final page of Jake and Lyrian's journey in The Fire Endures, I hope their story has kindled a spark in your heart, a flame to light the dark. This isn't just a tale of a regular mechanic saving an alien girl, it's a reminder that humanity's greatest strength lies not in what we achieve, but in our compassion, grit, and bonds that transcend all barriers. Jake, a wrench turner with forgotten dreams, found purpose saving Lyrian, a Xytherian cast aside. Lyrian, frail yet fierce, showed the power of hope and trust. Together, they forged a fire, not just to survive Xytherians or mercenaries, but to prove that love and kindness can illuminate the cosmos. The lesson here is clear: compassion is our most enduring strength, even in the darkest times. Jake had no superpowers, no clout, but his choice to help a stranger against all odds changed their fates. Lyrian, deemed worthless by the Xytherians, proved every life holds a unique flame, needing only someone to believe in it. In the chaos of Nova Terminus, Zoran, or Delta 9, this story reminds us that small acts, like reaching out a hand, can spark massive change. Listener, I wove this tale in quiet moments, where imagination danced with big questions: what makes us human? Jake and Lyrian led me through Nova Terminus's scrapyards, Zoran's glowing caves, and the spaces where their hearts beat as one. But I need you to know if this fire reached you. Did Lyrian's blaze in the cave move you? Did Jake's dogged resolve ring true? Did their promise of Earth stir a longing for new journeys? Share your thoughts, whether they're a roar of feeling or a whisper of reflection. Your feedback is my guiding star, shaping the stories I'll tell next. Like Jake and Lyrian, we, storyteller and listener, form a bond, igniting universes that live in our shared dreams. Until we meet again, keep your own fire burning, and know that, somewhere among the stars, another story waits to be told.